If your vocal sounds like this, muddy and buried in the mix, and you have no idea where to even start, you can take a deep breath. Because I'm going to show you the one foundational tool that every great vocal starts with, and that is EQ. Same recording, same performance, and that's the power of EQ. So before you think about upgrading your plugins or even dropping money on a new mic, here's the truth. Mixing is not about fancy plugins. It's knowing how to use the fundamentals. EQ is only one step in the vocal mixing process, but get it wrong and everything else will be a struggle. But get it right and everything else falls into place. Let's break it down. So EQ can be separated into two categories. We have subtractive EQ, which is cutting, and we have additive EQ, which is boosting. And it's really important we separate those two steps in our minds, because some people might say, oh, if you have a muddy vocal, all you have to do is just boost the high end until the muddiness is relatively balanced. But in practice, that doesn't really work. You'll end up with a vocal that's both muddy and harsh at the same time. And as a general rule of thumb, it's better to clean up before you start enhancing. Think of a vocal like this. All the great characteristics and emotions of the singer's performance are already in the vocal. What we want to do is take away what's distracting, and once those things are gone, we'll have to use a lot less effort to help it cut through or to highlight certain characteristics in the vocal. That way, we're not relying on big EQ boosts to get the vocal to cut through, because that also makes it sound very unnatural, and a lot of times you bring out a lot of harshness as well. So our first step is to find areas that are distracting from the vocal's performance. I hear this kind of honky frequency that's poking out. That distracts me from fully appreciating the vocal. So now that frequency range that was distracting is now in balance. I'm no longer distracted by it. But there's still another problem. The vocal doesn't really cut through like our favorite vocal mixes. Now that we've cleaned up the vocal, we can go ahead and enhance the things that help it shine. Show me in this chaos, how slow it is down. So next, I think that the vocal can be airier. This often helps it have that kind of upfront, open sound. Show me in this chaos, how slow it is down. Let's see if adding some body will help this vocal sound bigger and fuller in the track as well. Show me in this chaos, how slow it is down. Yeah, sounds pretty good. Here's how it sounds like before and after. Show me in this chaos, how slow it is down. Show me in this chaos, how slow it is down. So now the vocal doesn't sound like it's buried in the mix. But not only that, we've brought out some characteristics of the vocal that we really like. We've brought out some brightness to help it cut through, also to sound more energetic. Of course, the vocal isn't done yet. It needs some compression to keep the volume dynamics even. It needs some effects to widen it and give it some space. But you get the point. EQ is the first step in the vocal mixing process, and it's a very powerful one. If you want to know the rest of the steps in the process, download our free 4-step vocal mixing guide in the description below. So now, let's add the BVs. Okay, so we're gonna repeat the process, find the distracting frequencies and tame those. So here we found a frequency that not only sounds bad on the harmony, but it is also clashing with the lead vocal. But now that we've cleaned it up, the harmony doesn't really cut through anymore. We can't really hear it. So now that it's cleaned up, we can find areas to highlight it and help it sit right in the mix. Let's move on to the higher harmonies and repeat the same process. Show me in this chaos, show me in this chaos, how slow it is down. I get lost for a ride. Okay, so that's sounding pretty good, but I still think together as a group of backing vocals, it can have some cleanup. So we're gonna throw an EQ on the group of backing vocals. I get lost for a ride. I get lost for a ride. I get lost for a ride. I
get lost for a ride in my mind. Beauty is surrounding. I get lost for a ride in my mind. I get lost for a ride in my mind.
There we go. So same process applied to the backing vocals. Step 1, takeaway was distracting from the mix. In this case, not only what's distracting in the harmonies themselves, but also what is distracting from the lead vocal, because our lead vocal is the star of the show. And then enhance in a way that highlights the harmonies, but also complements everything else in the rest of the mix. And the result is everything now works together and everyone is clearer because of it, more audible. As a whole, the feeling is there's more energy, there's more clarity because no one's fighting each other anymore.
So show me in this chaos how to slow minutes down. 'Cause I get lost for a ride in my mind. So show me in this chaos how to slow minutes down. 'Cause I get lost for a ride.
So there we have it, the power of EQ. So if you find that your vocal isn't quite sitting right in the mix and you're trying to push a compression, trying to add saturation and tweak all these different things and it's not working, go back and make sure your EQ choices are solid. If you found this video helpful, remember to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends so that they can make better EQ choices too, and subscribe because we've got a lot of vocal mixing content coming. See you in the next one.